For most of human history, the idea of the end of the world has been treated as mythology. Floods, resets, divine punishment, rebirth. Stories passed down through religion, legend, and ancient texts. But in 1966, something changed. That year, a book was quietly released in the United States. It wasn't a religious text. It wasn't science fiction. It wasn't written by a mystic or a prophet. It was written by an engineer. The book was called The Adam and Eve Story. And almost immediately after its release, it was classified by the CIA. Not criticized, not debated, not debunked. Classified. For nearly 60 years, the public was unable to access it. And even when it was finally declassified decades later, only a small portion of the original document was released. So the question is unavoidable. Why would an intelligence agency hide a book about Earth's history? The answer, according to its author, is simple: because it describes how the world ends. The man behind the book, the author of the Adam and Eve Story, was Dr. Chan Thomas, also known by his full name, Dr. Chauncey Powers Thomas. He was not a fringe thinker. He worked as an engineer at McDonnell Douglas. He contributed to missile guidance systems at Bell Labs. He was involved in advanced aerospace research during the Cold War. This was someone trusted with classified technology. And yet, Thomas believed humanity was living inside a repeating cycle of destruction. According to his theory, civilization does not move forward in a straight line. It resets. Again and again and again. Thomas argued that we are not the first advanced civilization on Earth. We are simply the latest. The cycle of destruction at the core of Thomas's theory is a phenomenon known as rapid pole shift, not the slow magnetic drift scientists talk about today, but a sudden, violent displacement of Earth's crust. In this scenario, the Earth's outer shell shifts dramatically. The geographic poles move toward the equator, and the planet experiences a global catastrophe in less than a single day. According to Thomas, when this happens, continents stop rotating, oceans and atmosphere continue moving at over 1,000 miles per hour. Massive walls of water sweep across the land. Entire civilizations are erased. Not metaphorically, literally. Cities vanish, mountains collapse, civilization ends, and survivors are forced back into the Stone Age. If this sounds extreme, Thomas wasn't the first to suggest it. A theory older than the book, nearly a decade before the Adam and Eve Story was published, a scientist named Charles Hapgood introduced a controversial idea known as Earth crust displacement. Hapgood proposed that Earth's crust could shift independently of its core. Ice caps could destabilize the planet's rotation. Entire continents could move rapidly at the time. This idea was labeled pseudoscience. But Hapgood had supporters. One of them was Albert Einstein, who wrote the 4-2 of Hapgood's books. Today, we know Hapgood was right about several things. Continents move. The poles wander. Earth is not as stable as we once believed. And Thomas took this idea even further. The last reset, according to Thomas, the most recent global catastrophe, did not happen during the Younger Dryas, 11,500 years ago. He claimed it occurred around 6,500 years ago. This timing is unsettling, because that date aligns with flood myths. Across every major civilization, archaeological evidence of sudden population collapses. Geological signs of massive flooding. Sumerian texts describe it. Biblical texts describe it. Mayan legends describe it. Chinese records describe it. Different cultures, different continents. Same event. When dozens of civilizations describe the same disaster, it stops looking like mythology. It starts looking like memory. Erased civilization's mainstream history tells us civilization began in Mesopotamia around 6,500 years ago. But Thomas asked the dangerous question: What if that wasn't the beginning? What if that was the restart? He pointed to evidence of advanced cultures existing before known history. Submerged cities, unexplained megalithic structures, advanced engineering with no clear origin. He believed civilizations like Atlantis and Mu were not myths. They were casualties. Atlantis and the fingerprints of water. Plato described Atlantis as a technologically advanced society destroyed by a sudden catastrophe. For centuries, it was dismissed as allegory, but geological formations tell a different story. In northwest Africa lies the Richet structure, also known as the Eye of the Sun. Its concentric rings match Plato's description almost perfectly. Surrounding the structure are massive ripple formations patterns created by enormous volumes of moving water. Not rivers, not rain, but something closer to a continent-scale tsunami. These formations exist in places where no such water should have ever flowed, unless the earth itself changed. The land of Mu. On the opposite side of the planet, legends speak of another lost continent, Mu. Ancient texts from both India and the Maya describe a vast Pacific landmass that once connected distant islands. Sites like Nanmadol, Yanaguni, and Easter Island may be remnants of this lost world. Massive stone structures, advanced engineering, no clear explanation. If Mu existed, its destruction aligns with the same cycle Thomas described, and it raises an uncomfortable possibility. Human history may be far longer than we're taught. Is it happening again? The most unsettling part of the Adam and Eve story is not the past, it's the future. Thomas believed the same process that destroyed previous civilizations is already underway. Pointed to accelerating pole movement, weakening magnetic fields, increased seismic activity. Modern science confirms parts of this. Earth's magnetic field is weakening. The North Pole is drifting faster than ever recorded. Solar storms pose increasing risks to global infrastructure. A full pole shift wouldn't instantly destroy life, but it would cripple modern civilization. Satellites would fail, power grids would collapse, global communication would stop, and society, as we know it, would not survive intact. Why was the book classified? Despite popular claims, the book was not banned worldwide. Only one document was classified. Why? There is no official explanation. Some believe it was because Thomas worked on classified projects. Others believe the ideas were considered or perhaps the document was classified simply because it existed in the possession of intelligence agencies. But one thing is clear. The book was never refuted. It was never formally dismissed. It was simply hidden. Truth, fear, and responsibility. Not everything in the Adam and Eve story is scientific. Thomas made assumptions, he speculated. He connected dots that may not fully connect. But history shows us something important. Ideas once labeled pseudoscience often become accepted later. Continental drift was once ridiculed. Meteor impacts were dismissed. Extinction events were denied, until evidence forced reality to change. The difference between science and pseudoscience is oftentimes why this matters. This channel exists to explore uncomfortable questions, not to spread fear, not to promote belief, but to understand. If civilizations before us were erased, the lesson isn't panic, it's awareness. History may not move forward in a straight line, and the greatest threat to humanity may not come from the sky, but from the planet beneath our feet. If you're still watching, you're exactly the kind of person this channel is for. If you value deep research, long-form storytelling, and ideas that challenge the official narrative, consider subscribing, not because it helps the algorithm, but because this conversation doesn't end here. And if you have a topic you think deserves a real investigation, leave it in the comments. History is far stranger than we are told, and this is only the beginning.